So I want you to hear a fresh translation based on the Septuagint Greek into English of Genesis 1, verses 3 through 5. This is where God creates light and darkness. This is an accurate translation of what is actually there in the Greek. The rooted word, Common English edition. And God says, a light must come to be. And a light itself comes to be. And God sees the light, that it is beautiful. And God divides upward a middle of the light, and upward a middle of the shady obscurity. And God calls the light day, and the shady obscurity he calls night. And evening itself comes to be, and early morning itself comes to be, day one. It has a different feeling to it when it's translated according to what God testified to. Notice the coming to be, okay? So when God says a light must come to be, he's ordering that it must happen. And a light itself comes to be. So where there was no light in existence, that light itself came to be. Somehow it was given that ability to come to be, even without being at the time. This is why it is a miracle, the creation. Something that didn't exist was given power in order to make itself come into existence. But that power didn't come from itself. It came from God and his command. And God sees the light that it is beautiful, not good. It can be interpreted as good, but it means beautiful. God sees the light that it is beautiful, and God divides upward a middle of the light, and upward a middle of the shady obscurity that was created by the light. Okay? And God calls the light day. That part that he divides upward, the middle of the light. He calls this day. And then he calls that which he divided upward, the middle of the shady obscurity, he calls night. Then it says evening itself came to be. And early morning itself comes to be. Sorry, not came to be, comes to be. Evening itself comes to be, and early morning itself comes to be. Again, the ability is given to the things themselves to come to be from God. That doesn't mean that God didn't make it happen. He absolutely did. But what we're seeing in this language is the same relationship between us and salvation in God. That God gives us the power to come to be saved. But we do that ourselves by using that power, that opportunity, by confessing Jesus, by living according to that confession, and everything else that goes with that. And we fight daily against the reductionist gospel of the apostate churches, and all of you Christians who are part of the apostate churches and the apostate gospels. They want to reduce the testimony of God down to something that you can control, that you can manage, that you can grasp. No, God will have no part of it. And God has no part with you. You are to be part of the new creation by becoming a Christian. But you are trying to behave according to the flesh, not according to God's plan. And the way that he created things here, he has that same relationship with us. And we have to recognize that from the language of Genesis 1, 3 through 5. His relationship with the elements of creation as they were being created and given the power to come into being That same relationship is what he has with us in saving us into the new heaven and the new earth. So that we are created in the new heaven and the new earth and come to be because we have used that ability that God gives us, that avenue, in order to come into being, into it. Now, this is deep. This is going to take some reflection on your part. And I want you to really consider this squarely. I want you to think about this for a long time and what the implications are for your relationship with God. You are partly responsible, especially for the doing, for the action. You're responsible for that. God's responsible for giving you the opportunity and the power and the ability. But you're responsible to run with it. And if you don't run with it, you're not going anywhere. May the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart.